Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready to take a bite out of the competition? Are you looking for ideas to make your business better? Welcome to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet,
sponsored by Apple Capital Group.
At the core of every successful business, you'll find people making a difference. And with each episode of the Core Business Show, we talk with those people, examine those ideas, and explore the strategies that make them special. Now, the host of the Core Business Show, Tim Jacquet.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Core Business Show. This is Tim Jacquet, your host. Today I have the pleasure of having the car coach, Lauren Fix. If you need to speak with her, please call in at 347-324-3460, 347-324-3460. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining the program.
Well, thanks for having me. April's National Car Care Month, and I think a lot of people are thinking, yeah, the weather's changing. I got to remember my transportation.
What should they do? We come out of the winter season, now we're going to the spring. What they should do at the very beginning of the spring that, hey, I need to have my car checked out. Tell us kind of the step they should be taking at this point.
All right. Well, I call it the 4 C's of car care, which is check, change, carry, and clean. And I'll go over those C's for you. I think what's really important is people forget about their cars. And then the weather changes and all those squeaks and noises and smells and stuff need to be removed, and it's overlooked very easily because of life, things that get in our way. And one of the most important things is the fact that you can't get to work for most of the country unless you live in New York City because they have mass transportation. But for the rest of us, we need our vehicles. And, at the price of gas, we certainly want to save money as well as make sure our vehicles are running right, because if you wait till they break, they always cost more than if you're preventative. Mm-hmm. So that's really important. So one of the first things I tell people is check your oil. If you haven't opened the hood in a long time, pop the hood, find that dipstick. You may not know where that dipstick is, but this is something that's really easy to do. Look in your owner's manual. That's the book in the glove box on all the napkins and ketchup packs, the one that no one ever looks at. But that'll tell you where your dipstick is and why you're there. Look to see what kind of oil you need. What's interestingly, to me, is that new cars, the new little Hondas and Toyotas and little Fords, all these teeny little compact cars require synthetic oil. And the reason they require synthetic oil is because they're aluminum and they're small and they're lightweight and they put out a lot of power for those little guys, more so than what we remember in the past. And because of that, it requires better lubrication and it needs to run cooler. So that's sort of the theme here, because synthetic oil runs cooler, less emissions, which is good for all of us, slightly better fuel economy, longer life out of your engine, which is good news. But it saves you money overall because you're changing your oil every 7,500 to 10,000 miles, rather than that old 5,000 mile interval. If your owner's manual says save you synthetic, if you have, I'm going to save the money. I'm going to go for the cheap stuff. It could void your warranty. I've got many email people saying it voided my warranty now. I'm going to buy. So I use Royal Purple in my car. We use it in our race cars, and I've got vehicles that have well over 100,000 miles on them. And the engine's like new inside. If you were into engines and you opened it up, the lubrication's so good with the full synthetic. So consider that. And while you're talking about running cool, these little engines, actually any engine likes to run cool. Running hot is bad. It breaks down the metals. It breaks down the oil. If you haven't cleaned your engine like ever, and maybe it's kind of dunky and you can't even find if you have a leak because you just can't see it, which is pretty common. What I always tell people is you can clean your own engine. It doesn't take much. You can buy a can of gunk at any auto parts store, spray it on, let it sit, hose it off. The reason you want to use that is because if the engine runs cooler, you'll get better fuel economy. You'll get better life. So all that, how much does a can of gunk cost? Like nothing. So you can do that twice a year, and that all those type of things will help you, one, see where there's a problem, and two, keep the engine running cool.
Well, why all cars are not requiring synthetic if that's the case?
No, they should, but they don't. Actually, it's the only green solution. If you really want to go green, synthetic is the only answer because there's no crude oil involved.
Wow.
And many engines are going to that. And the thing is, it is recyclable as well. So if you think, well, I'm going to change the oil myself, what do I do with the old oil? Any oil change place by law has to take your old oil. If you think, I'm not going to change the oil, are you crazy? No way. Go by the old auto parts store, ask your favorite technician if they'll put it in for you. The only ones that won't are places that obviously sell their own brand, or the dealer rarely will, but you should call. Call ahead and find out, and always shop around for the best price for synthetic oil as well, because your quick oil change place may not be the lowest price when it comes to changing full synthetic.
What do you think about having the little small quickie lubes and things like that to change your oil? Some advertise at $9. Do you need to ask, okay, what kind of oil is it, or they use their own?
You should ask.
Okay.
You should ask.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think if you don't ask what kind of oil you're getting, it's like sitting down and asking for dinner but not knowing what it is till you eat it. You don't know. And the thing is, well, why is that important? Well, if you run regular oil and you just take it to some quick oil change place, which many of them are fantastic. They're great if you're in a rush, you don't have time. Only let them do the oil. I know they make money off them. Let me change your air filter and your headlights and all that. But the truth is, you can get all that stuff done at a much lesser price by just buying an auto parts store. Wiper blades, engine air filters, cabin air filters, which is where you sit, and wiper blades will all be replaced for free by just buying them at an auto parts store. And just, hey, can you put these on for me? And they're like, sure, takes 2 seconds. So you can save money that way. But these quick oil change places, if you don't ask, they'll say, well, we'll put in what your car requires. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. So they're not going to know. And if they look it up and they put the wrong thing in, you could void your warranty. And you're the one that's going to pay the price. You can't go back to them after you've left and say, hey, like 2 weeks ago, I had my oil changed. That's not going to cut it. It's like going back to a car wash after there's been damage. Once you leave, it's yours. So the smart thing to do would be literally to, ask for full synthetic and ask them what brand. You're paying for it. You should know what you're paying for.
Okay, so when it comes to domestic imports and European cars, all of those are synthetic. I know if you go into the European cars, the oil lasts a little bit longer. Are those all synthetics, like the BMWs?
All the German cars, every single German car.
Okay, synthetic. That's the reason why.
Yeah, well, I drive an Audi. My son drives a Mini. All those cars all require nothing but full synthetic. At one point, I had a Porsche. Owner's manual said full synthetic. And the reason is because they want their engines to last a long time. They want to get the most performance and fuel economy. And these are things that people overlook. I mean, it's so easy to overlook some of the basics, even washing your car. People don't even want to do that. I mean, but it affects the value. It affects the life. And hey, it's your only form to get around in some cities. Where I live, there's no bus service, there's no trains, and there's no bike paths. So if you want to ride your bike, you'll probably get hit by a car. So you have to have a vehicle to drive and to get to where you need to be. Get to the airport, get your kids to school, get to work, whatever it is. And it's really important to take care of that. It literally is an investment. I mean, it's not a stock, but it is when it comes to getting your paycheck every week.
Okay, so when it comes to the value of the car, how does that play a part when you get ready to trade that car in?
Well,
how clean it is.
Oh, it makes a huge difference.
Okay.
If you've ever sold a home, which many of us have, you stage a house, the same thing has to be done with your car. You want the car to look good. And the thing is, if you don't take care of the basic maintenance, which is very easy to tell, even though you think you can change the oil last minute or do a quick wax job, I can look at a car quickly from, we call them 10-footers, 10 feet away, and tell whether you've maintained that car on the outside, because waxing a car is so important because it can actually depreciate the value of your vehicle by up to $2,000. So you go to trade it in at the dealer and they look at it and go, you know what? I have to tell you, Tim, I got to take $2,000 off the price of this car because the clear coat's cracked or the paint is faded. So it's really important to look for a wax product. I mean, I'm test driving this. I call it test driving this liquid wax called Turtle Wax, and it has these advanced resins and polymers that bring up the luster of the clear coat because the new paints are base coat and then clear coat, and that clear coat needs to have those polymers and those resins put in order to get the best shine. And you're thinking, well, I don't need that every day. But if you don't wax your car at least every 6 months with a good paste wax or every other month with a liquid wax or a spray wax once a month, it's really difficult to sell the car and get the most value out of it. Also, hey, you are what you drive. If the car looks like a slob and you come in for a job interview, they may take that as an affront and think that's what you're like. It may not be true, but remember, it's all part of that image, right?
So when it comes to when you do that, I mean, a lot of people don't know how to wax their car. I mean, if you go back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people wax their cars. Here it is, people have no clue. Back in that, not picking on the Turtle brand, in the 80s, sometimes you put the wax on and you see people leave it there. It's really difficult to get off.
Yeah, first rule, never wax a car in the sun. If a car is hot, the wax is a nasty, nasty job to get off. The best way to do it is look for a liquid wax. Now, this one comes with an applicator and a chamois to remove it, but you can also go to their website. As soon as you do, they'll show you a video on how to wax on, wax off under the car. If you don't, then I'm older than you. But that's okay. Waxing car is really easy. I taught my kids how to do it. They have spray wax. You spray them on. Turtle wax is a spray wax. You spray on and wipe it off. I mean, so there's, if you want to do the old-fashioned paste wax, which is all I do, I know I get a really nice coat of wax on the car, and it protects the value. It looks good, and the water beads up and runs right off, which is nice. Also good for when it's snowing outside. The snow, which we're done with that now, thank goodness. The snow slides right off the car because of the wax. So there are some benefits, not just the value, but restoring it back to that showroom shine.
Is it something you can do to protect in snowy areas and you have this salt and chemicals on the road? How can you protect the undercarriage of the car? Is there a solution or something?
Yeah, I'm not a big rust-proof fan, personally. I think some people do rust-proof cars, and it might be fine if you are in a heavy salted area. In many cases, the best thing is run it through a car wash. I run mine through once a week just to get that salt from off the undercarriage because it rots out the exhaust system, the brake lines, the fuel lines. And so, that, all that is all part of, your car's undercarriage can be such a value. And I always tell people that's another thing when you're looking at the car as far as the undercarriage that you don't think about, because you see what the color on top of your car is, red or blue or white or whatever, is the tires. And that's something you have to check your tire pressure once a month. I mean, people forget about that as well. Tires are very expensive. And if you're not getting the most life out of your tire, then it's your fault for not checking the tires and rotating them. Really easy to do. Just open your driver's door. There's a sticker there. That sticker tells you the right tire pressure for your car. In the morning, one morning, Saturday morning, whenever, when you're not busy, once a month, open the door, look at that, take your tire pressure, match it. If it's good, you're good. If not, add air. You can buy a compressor for like $12 now at the mass merchandiser. But the key is if your tires do need to be replaced, this is something that's new, by the way, is getting a warranty on your tires. I mean, people say, oh, yeah, it's warranted for damage. No, I'm talking about longevity. You bought a $200 tire. It better last X amount of miles. There's a new tire out there right now that's good for 90,000 miles. I never heard of a tire good for 90,000 miles.
I haven't seen one ever.
Cars that long. But the Michelin Defender actually will give you 90,000 miles. It's under a warranty, and it gives you an additional 1.5 years of driving because of that, which is about $250 of fuel savings. So that's not the cost of getting one tire for free.
So you buy more, but the key is you got to really, really maintain it, take the pressure on a regular basis, make sure you get your regular alignments, and but some tires crack over time. So how this tire can prevent it? 90,000 miles can be like 5 years.
Right, exactly. Well, what it is their tires. Michelin is a really known brand. I mean, if you buy the cheap tires that are made in China, I promise you're going to get exactly what you pay for, about 15,000 at the most miles out of it. But a tire that like this has sunflower oil in it. I was actually at the plant and got to see them making tires. It was very cool. It used to be when we were kids, tires were made of rubber and oil, crude oil. Well, that's why when the price of oil goes up, the price of tires go up. Except when the price of gasoline goes down, your tire prices never go down. And so that's why tires are just getting a little pricey now. But they have sunflower oil in there they're using to be greener, and that actually keeps the tire better lubricated, so you get longer life out of it, and good riding, better handling, better wet braking performance. So all these things are not expected, but they really do work.
Wow. So taking that tire itself, the run flats, how does that play with run flats? Kind of tell us what is run flats, and is it a good option?
Yes, I actually have run flats in my car because I have no spare. Both my Audi and my son's Mini, neither of them came with a spare, so they came with run flats. So if your vehicle has them and you're thinking, I'm not going to spend the money, there's two reasons that your car was designed that way. One, the way it was set up for the handling, the performance, the braking, the best fuel economy is designed on those tires. If you don't use those tires, you better have some tire inflation product with you just in case. And that does happen where people forget about it until they have a flat. Oh, I'm not going to get a flat. Well, when you do, you're stuck on the side of the road. It's really aggravating. These are things that are important that people overlook, that if your car doesn't have a spare and you don't even know if you've got a spare, take a peek. You might be surprised because many vehicles these days are coming without it, and not just performance cars, little cars that are, because they're trying to keep the weight light. If they're, the little Fiat 500, there's no spare. Smart car, no spare. You think, okay, that's teeny, but a lot of cars have shrunk down to just tire inflation products. So keep that in mind. To use the correct tires that belong in your car, and the same tire all the way around. If they need to be replaced, don't start switching up and putting, Michelins in the front and Chinese tires in the back because you're trying to save a few bucks. It's the only thing that touches the ground.
Now, question when it comes to your tires itself. For example, if you go to the national chain, I'm just going to say Discount Tire. You go to Discount Tire, when you buy a tire, you pay more for the particular tire, but sometimes you cannot get that same tire back. maybe it's a high-end tire you saw on their website, but you go there a year later and something happens to the tire, either blow out, they can't repair it, then they replace it. Necessarily, they say they can't ever find the exact tire. Well, in that case, now you have the equivalent still of Michelin, but you don't have the other tire. So you say, hey, you promised me you get the tire. You need to get me his tire so it can match. You know what? Does it make that much of a difference?
Yes, it does. And if you're ever in doubt and someone says, oh, you can't get that tire, I don't believe that's true, because I own cars from the 60s and I can find original tires. Because we use them for show cars. And again, you're not trying to promote a brand here, but Tire Rack, it's a .com. You can go to their site. They have everything and they can find anything. So if for older tires than that, just put the name into your web browser. Find out what works. You'll be surprised. Those tires are laying around, especially when you're trying to match. In my area, there's guys that sell used tires. You can come and say, hey, I'm looking for a Michelin Defender. I just blew one out. They'll go ahead and find that tire that's used that has the same amount of tread as the ones you have left. So they're out there. You just have to be a little bit more creative and not rely on one person behind the counter trying to sell you a more expensive tire.
Okay, we're talking about used tires. Should there be some caution when buying a used tire?
Absolutely. Before you purchase it, you should, if you don't know anything about tires, it might be a little more difficult, but visually, there should be no holes, no patches, no cuts, no damage. But usually the tire guys are pretty good because they know what they're doing. If the tires got damaged, they know it falls on them because they buy them from places like Discount Tire, like you were saying. They have tires they take off. Someone wants new tires. The old one's really worn. Maybe they wanted all seasons instead of performance tires. They just put them in a pile and they sell them off to these guys. Or someone wanted to upgrade from regular rims to performance rims. So they're out there. So that's something that people aren't aware of. Everything's available. I mean, I've been working in the auto parts business for over 25 years, and I found parts from a 1923 BMW. And people's like, how is that possible? Well, you know what? They made trucks back then, and it made it through the war, and someone had it. So everything's available. You just have to know where to look.
Okay, I have some questions real quick. We're going to go real quick on them, because I know you're pressed for time. Regarding rolling back the odometer, you cannot roll it back the odometer.
No, you cannot roll back an odometer. If you try to do that, you will go to prison. Everything is calculated from the registration, the states, Carfax. It is far from doing it from the 60s. I mean, that's one of the big things I think people overlook that. And another thing I did want to address before we flip on to about car values is to please, it's now the time of year to replace your wiper blades every 6 months. Get a replacement blade, especially if you've got a minivan. You got those upright windshields where they chatter. There's a new wiper blade that has a wing on it to keep it down, the Trico Force. So please look for a new set of wiper blades. This is the time of year.
Okay. Number two, when it comes to a chip on your windshield, should you replace the whole windshield, or does these new solutions, sealants, will actually work?
Okay, that's a really good question. I've done a lot of work with the glass industry. There are natural flaws in glass. So when it's repaired, you can actually see a blurry spot. So if it's right in your sight and your vision line, is where all different types. If it's right in the sight of your vision, you should have the windshield replaced. Now, if you have glass coverage and it's covered under your insurance, it doesn't cost you anything. However, if you don't, and you're thinking this is coming out of pocket, you can shop around, but my recommendation is to look for an original equipment replacement glass. For example, my windshield got cracked, and I called my insurance company. They were going to put some aftermarket brand in. But I knew when I went to trade in my car, it was going to kill me in the value. So I asked for an Audi replacement windshield and actually had one that had a brand name on it. Now that's not the case for everything. There's Car Light and there's other brands out there, PPG. So whatever was in your car is what they should replace it with, because it will affect the value of your car. They'll know it's been in a wreck, or it's been damaged, or it's been replaced. It gives them doubt is what it does.
Okay, Carfax. So
yes.
Okay, Carfax.
Got to be careful with them. People ask if Carfax is the answer. Well, it is part of the answer. If you get a clean Carfax, that means that no one reported anything. What I do know to be a fact is that flood damaged cars, only a small percentage of them, somewhere between 20 and 30%, have been listed in that Carfax report. So you wouldn't even know.
Wow.
If you had a fender bender, you're not going to pick up the phone and report yourself. An independent collision shop's not going to report it. An insurance company's supposed to, but they don't want to because it takes time, which means I need a person to do it. If I got a person doing it, then that costs me money. So not everyone reports. Individuals definitely never report. Dealerships tend to report, but not always, because they want to have some documentation for themselves. But they do pay a fee to be a part of that Carfax group. So don't assume that if your Carfax comes back clean that the car is perfect. I suggest finding an ASE, that's Automotive Service Excellence, which I am an ASE tech. Put the car up on the lift, take off the wheels, check it out inside out, check the windshield, look at the brands, look at the paint. I mean, literally, I can look at a car in a few minutes and start telling you how this car's history has been. Has someone taken care of it? Has it been abused? Was it in an accident? Was it in a flood damage? And you don't even have to be a genius to figure it out. It's just a matter of you can see wear and tear like you would on anything else.
Okay, so when you should always have a mechanic check out any used car that you buy.
Absolutely, and if it's on a lot, a dealer lot, I guess if it's their brand, you're okay. If you're looking at an Acura and you're on an Acura lot, awesome. But if you're looking at a Honda and you're on a GM lot, I said, listen, I'd like to take this over to the dealer. I did that when I bought my Mini. It was sitting in a Land Rover lot. I wasn't going to buy a Land Rover, but they didn't know anything about the Mini other than, yeah, it's a car. Well, I took it over to the dealer. They sent a guy with me, and we got a complete list of the history of the car, who owned it, any repairs, were the recalls done, had it been in an accident, it was clean. And that meant I could make an offer on it. And it was still under warranty, which the Land Rover dealer didn't even know.
Now, taking account of that, because of the glut for the past 5 years, for the, program that they buy your car to take the old cars off the road.
The cash for clunkers? Yeah.
Cash for clunkers. That took a lot of used cars off the market. And now, really, the dealerships are pressed for buying cars. They have to go to auctions. So not necessarily, when it's an auction, they're buying is what they see and what they can get at that time before they make the purchase. In that case, person, they really don't know what happened with this particular car. So the only person that you really have is really a mediator is Carfax. So what do you do in that situation?
Well,
you still will take that used car to a mechanic?
Absolutely. Here's why. The dealers that go and buy these cars, like if you're a Buick dealer and you go to the auction, and I'm going to the auction actually next week. When you go to the auction, the guys know their cars. They know what they're looking for, and they know what doesn't. These guys specialize in used cars. I mean, once a car is signed on the dotted line, it's a new car, it becomes part of their world. And they go down there and they look at these cars and say, wait a minute, this car has been in an accident. This car has been poorly abused. They can tell within minutes. They get in the car, they start it up, they can drive it around the lot. If they buy the car and the dealership finds it's not good, they can return it back to the auction house. And then they usually return it back to the person that brought it there and say that we can't run it through here. If it's a used car lot, they're looking to make money. And that's why you want to take that car to an independent service technician, have them look it over. Say, you know what, this car is great. This is a really good deal. It might be. There's a lot of really good deals. And with used cars at such a premium right now, I always tell people, look at a new car, it might be a better deal, and then check your insurance rates as well, because that may be something that could cause you to make the deal or not make the deal. Because sometimes you'll think, I can get so much more car for my money. Yeah, but your insurance rates are higher and it's used. You can buy a new car, a brand new one, cost you the same amount, and your insurance rates are less. So try to keep that in mind as well.
Okay. The last two questions, do you really need to change your oil every 3,000 miles? And does the climate makes a difference? If you're in the south, which is hotter, should you change it as often? Or in the colder climate, change it less?
Well, that's a good question. First up, that 3,000-mile rule has been totally null and void. What happened was that was the way it used to be, but now with new engines and new oils and additives and supplements, 5,000 miles is considered the new rule. Again, your owner's manual is the Bible for your car. So European cars, it's synthetic, 7,500 to 10,000 miles. Don't guess. Look at your owner's manual. And as far as living down south, yes, it is. The heat does take a toll on the engines, and that's why synthetic is your best choice. And the reason I like synthetic in the northern half of the country where I live, where it's nice and cold, is regular oil can actually freeze. I've actually tested it. It actually will freeze and turn into gelatin, where synthetic oil does not freeze. So in the morning, it's cold outside. You get in your car, you start it up. Synthetic starts up, lubricates instantly. You're set to drive. If it's regular oil, it's gelatin and it's not lubricating the engine properly. So what ends up happening is that it can actually cause damage. It can cause oil to blow by the rings. And what you see is black smoke coming out the tailpipe because the engine is running without having lubrication. And the other direction, regular oil down south, it gets too thin and does similar things. So these are things that you as an owner have to think about. I'm going to get the most life out of this car because many people are doing that now. I better put synthetic oil in, use synthetic fluids. You can get synthetic coolant. You can get all kinds of cool things that'll make your engine last a long time.
Great. Last question regarding maintenance of a vehicle. All cars pretty much can go over 100,000 miles at this point, but when you get to 100,000 miles, really, how should you take care of the car at that time? Be sure you get everything changed out on a regular basis, and so because your book only goes so far at that point.
Right. What I tell people at 100,000 miles, it's your responsibility to have things changed, like timing chains and timing belts. All those kind of things are very easy to overlook. Things that, well, he's not going to do that. Bearings and bushings and hoses and belts, all the things that wear. Well, that's what you were talking about earlier. Rubber cracking, that's when you'll see engine components. And you need to see that. So a clean engine will run cooler, but you can also see any damage visually. And like I said, you don't have to be a genius to look and go, okay, there's a leak there, or that's cracked, or that belt is about ready to snap. Find a technician that you like that's ASE certified, and a good one is invaluable.
Perfect. Any closing comments you would like to leave?
Well, if you have any further questions, you can contact me on my website, which is laurenfix.com. And I answer people's questions for free. In addition, I have a newsletter that I put out once a month at laurenfix.com. It's free, and it's not about selling things. It's about answering people's questions, giving them good information to make them more powerful. I also cover the auto shows for AOL Autos. I have a column there. Or you can find me on my blog and put comments in, and I'm happy to talk to you. I have a Twitter account as well, Lauren Fix.
Great. Website address again?
LAURENFIX.com.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for coming on the program. I really appreciate it. We learned a lot this morning regarding how to take care of your car. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me as a guest, and I wish you all have safe travels.
Okay. Have a great day. Again, I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Again, that's Lauren. Bye-bye. Again, that's Lauren Fix. She's the car coach. You can check out her website. She has a lot of helpful information that will help you maintain your pre-owned car or your current car. Make sure you get your oil change. Make sure you change your windshield wipers on a regular basis. And just do preventive maintenance, and it will save you more on the long term. Again, if you also, good advice she mentioned, is that you should make sure you have a spare tire. So thank you for joining the program again. Again, Tim Jacquet, the Core Business Show. Take care and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. For a free quote on equipment leasing and financing, visit our website, applecapitalgroup.com. That's applecapitalgroup.com. And fill out the information to receive your free quote. We hope you'll join us for our next episode. And remember, you can always get to the Core via iTunes. You'll find all our previous episodes there. Thanks again for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet.